right, hello. Welcome to the Artificially Intelligent Podcast, where a white, honky American pale-face cracker comedian in Iowa speaks with his black African-American person of color musician friend in Philadelphia. That's Barrett Antar Goodwin right there. Actually, I should go like this because it's always opposite of what I am. Oh, and I'm Nathan Timmel. I didn't say that. So Nathan Timmel, Barrett Antar Goodwin. And then living in a fishbowl of pee is comedian Larry Smith, having camera issues, huh?
It's wonderful. I love technology. It's brilliant. And yes, this is apparently my jaundice has just taken over the entire room. So, maybe it's time to see a doctor.
I wish I could make a joke, but I'm saying I was going to say, oh, eat a lime, but that's scurvy. I don't know how you cure jaundice. So otherwise I would have made a jaundice comment.
Drink less. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
It's a liver thing. Drink more water.
Yeah. Well, I got because the last time we spoke,
you were drinking alcohol.
Yes, I had a whiskey and I felt bad because you were drinking out of a tub of water. It wasn't even it wasn't that. That's a jug. You had a tub of water.
You got to stay hydrated.
I do. Yeah. I put ice in my whiskey.
Yeah. Well, we are going to open tonight. And then this is something Barrett and I have talked about. This is something you and I talked about last when we spoke on your program, Larry. But we're going to open with an apology from me. And you don't want one, and I'm pretty sure you don't care, but I'm going to do it anyway, because when you had me on your program, you told a very nice story about me. You were very complimentary, and I did that thing, and this is what we can talk about, that I always do, which is interrupt, make wisecracks, like, ha, 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 like self-deprecating humor. And yeah, it's all good in the moment. And then when I listened back, I was literally cringing. I'm like, he is trying to be so nice, and I'm just being a dick. And then to cap it off, I was listening to a podcast with Jeff Daniels, the actor, on it. And at the end of that podcast, they just said, hey, thanks for coming. So I just really appreciate you. You're a fantastic actor. You're one of my heroes. And Jeff just went, oh, man, thanks. And it didn't sound like arrogance, or like the thing that always gets in my head is like, if I'm hearing a compliment, if I like that compliment, then I'm an arrogant dick. So I quick try and undercut it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I apologize for undercutting. I mean, you were trying to have a genuine moment with me, and I was just being a dick, not to be a dick, but to harm myself. And it really did harm me. Like, I listened to that and I'm like, wow, anybody that doesn't know me listens to this, they're just going to think, what a dick. Larry's being super nice and he's just making jokes. So that's my apology. That's how we can open. And Barrett, you and I have talked about this, people undercutting their own compliments, trying to get over it. Larry, I've interrupted you twice. Go ahead.
No, it's your show. You do what you need to. I appreciate it. It's the same thing that all comics do. Every comedian I know feels it necessary to deflect, because like you said, when you just go, oh, thanks, man, you feel like you're being egotistical somehow.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing, and I do it with everything. It doesn't matter if it's some type of graphic art, or if something that I've built and someone goes, that's really nice, and I go, yeah, well, let me show you all the things I did wrong. Let me hey, great set, yeah, but I really should have picked up this punchline. I should have tagged this with this, so we're not used to genuine and also, let's face it, as comics, we bust each other's balls out of love. And so even if you get a genuine compliment, there's still that you're waiting for the, hey, great set, it's too bad you're ugly, or so, something like that. You're like, yeah, you prick. All right, I love you too. That's So while I appreciate it, you're right, wasn't needed, and that's the thing. I listen to it, I live it, and then I listen to it while I edit it, so I don't go back and listen to it. But while I was listening to it while editing, I definitely was giggling, because I was like, he's because you had mentioned it on the show.
Yeah.
And
so I think I might have even said, okay, now I need to shut up, and then didn't shut up, or maybe I did at some point, but Is there any similarity in the music world? Like someone says great set, or wow, that solo was awesome. Do you like, I should have switched to B flat, or or do musicians take compliments better?
I don't know all musicians. I know I don't. I know that I do now, but only because somebody actually called me out on it years ago, where somebody said, "Oh, that was a great set." I said, I don't know, and blah blah blah, whatever. And they were kind of disappointed. And the person said, when somebody says that to you, it's like basically premillennial behavior, right? It is like they say something nice to you and you reject it. And what you're saying is, no, you're dumb. You don't know good music. Because this shit sucked what you just saw. And if you actually knew something, you wouldn't have liked this. And it's like that's
literally
insulting.
what my wife told me. She said, you're discounting their opinion and making them feel stupid. So
yeah, right. And it's like, and it's a valid point, I think. And so I stopped doing it. I just say thank you. I go, really? Wow, thanks. So, and then my kind of go-to is, yeah, thanks. I have a lot of fun. Or thanks. We really have a lot of fun when we do this. You know what I mean? And that is honest, because we do have a lot of fun. It doesn't mean that there's not a constant voice chasing that fun around telling me that it sucks. Right? It's like fun is the little dog, and there's a big dog chasing it around going, you suck, and fun is just running in circles. And it's like, I can just talk about the fun part. I don't have to talk about the demons that the fun is running from in my head. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need to know that. So.
Well, I think it's
goddamn great way of putting it, and that's what I needed to learn. Like, I've gotten a lot better of doing that after shows where someone just walks by, great show, thanks, great show, thanks. And I hadn't stumbled like I did with Larry's show, but I think it was also because I think there's a difference between Larry trying to tell a genuine story, which takes a couple minutes, and I have to sit there like, he's saying nice things about me, as opposed to just like, nice show. That I can just, pew, 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 I can just fire back, thanks. Even if in the back of my head I'm thinking, fuck that joke up, so I think, but I the nice thing about it is as cringeworthy as it was, I'm better at not beating myself up over it. It was just a great learning moment. And I'll say this as as an insult to Larry, thank God I learned it on your show and not the Colbert Report or something like that. Colbert Report doesn't exist anymore. But like, if I ever somehow dumbfucked my way into a big show, my God, the national embarrassment. So I apologize to you, but I thank you for affording me the opportunity to fail on such a level.
Absolutely. I'm happy. I'm always happy to help in that vein. I am the tiniest podcast on NPR. So I'm training wheels. I'm just training wheels for somebody that actually matters.
and training wheels for yourself. You do that there, and then you move to somewhere else too, right?
Then you become the biggest show on Illinois Public Radio. Yes,
right.
Yeah, and then from there, maybe a show at 11 p.m. on PBS.
Yes.
See, but now you're talking about the big time.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. I looked up a guy today who had the name Larry Smith.
Yeah, the hell with that guy.
And he was a comedian, and he made a joke about weed and cologne, but he didn't look like you. He looked like he could be your dad. So I'm hoping it wasn't you. And now I just said something really fucked up.
Barrett was trying to do his research and ended up. I guess what he's trying to say is you need a senior or a junior at either the beginning at some point in your name, so you really pop as the Larry Smith, or that could actually be it. The Larry Smith, comedian.
Yeah, because there's a couple. Like I looked up one, and and I was like, oh, here's a guy, Larry Smith, and I looked him up, and I said, oh, he's kind of funny. It's fun enough. Like I can see this would be fun, But I'm actually secretly glad that it's not you and you're who you are.
Well, same, because I've no offense to the other Larry Smith, but he can get fucked. I can say that, right?
Of course you can.
Excellent. No,
We don't have public radio standards to live down to.
well, absolutely. Well, and I told you, I'm the only podcast that I tell them make sure that the word explicit is next to it, because I refuse to tell
Not
my
for
guests.
my episode.
Well,
I didn't swear.
You didn't. I didn't even notice that.
I pointed it out at the end. I said, and you don't even have to mark this one as explicit.
Right. Yeah, you did. And see, that's why I maybe should listen to them even after I've edited them. I after living it and then listening to it again to make sure the sound is right and I don't need to make any cuts. I can't stand the sound of my own voice anymore.
Yeah, anybody that's put together now. Well, let's discuss that. Let's talk about your show for a quick second.
Sure.
How did you transition from, and not saying that you aren't a comedian anymore, but you're a comedian, and you went, let's do more, and you have a podcast, a show on Illinois Public Radio. Which, what was the process?
Well, so it's under two different networks. So it's the Front Row Network is a podcast network that has a ton of shows, and they had approached me at the same time that NPR Illinois had approached them and said, hey, we're about to partner up with NPR so we can get more coverage, and we would like you to do something for us. And at the time, this was 2000, well, it was late 2019. And I was like, great.
It was just about to get fun.
And my calendar was looking great. And I was like, I can't give a lot of a time commitment, but they're like, you know what, maybe how about one show every other month? And I was like, cool. And they're like, and I said, how about we do it as a live show? And okay. And so the idea was essentially a meaningless game show, and like literally meaningless. The prize was going to be whatever I found interesting and or funny,
or in your pocket. Exactly.
at Dollar General, Family Dollar, or the dollar store. I was going to go in, find the thing that made me go, that's dumb as hell. Let's bring it in. And it was going to be audience participation. And so the audience would provide two characters, fictional, nonfiction, what have you, just two names of famous people famous enough that you would know who they are. And then we would have four debaters. The audience would also, provide just some banal activity. The best thing I could think of when I was pitching the show was, the first two debaters pull the names, and then I pulled the activity, and the names would be like John Wick versus John McClane in an omelet making contest. Go. And so they would get, a time limit, and they would go back and forth. And then whoever the audience felt won would get to go to the winner's circle, and the loser would get to go to the heckler's box. And then the next two debaters would come up, same deal, different people, different activity. And then the two winners would have a longer debate while I moderated, and the two losers get to heckle them from the sidelines. And so we had this all set up. We'd figured it all out. We had the first show scheduled. The first show scheduled was going to be for March 17th of 2020.
March 14th, however.
And so we were like, okay, we'll push it off a couple weeks. And then that went, well, let's push it off a month. So now we're 6 weeks out, and the network came back to me and went, all right, figure something else out. We need you to do a show. You've got the slot, we've got the time, so do something. And so I love talking to people about one. I just like talking to people. I like listening to them. I like listening to their stories. I like finding out things about people. But I also love people, like the weird things that people hate, and I really love the weird things that people love. And so I came back, I was like, here's the idea for the show, just me talking to somebody for the first half, and I'll only get to ask, maybe a third of the questions that I really want to ask in that first half hour to 40 minutes, and then we'll finish out the show with hates and loves. And they were like, yep, go start getting people recorded, and it went from there. And it's it's been a, I don't know, it's been a fun show to do. We are, now that things are opening back up and we know how to do things safely, we're talking about doing some live shows again. So what
about the original idea? What about bringing that back? Because John Wick versus John McClane and Omelet that made me laugh. I like the idea of the show you pitched. I mean, could have 2 shows on the network. You could have the show you have and your original idea, which any talk of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. We're talking now about bringing it back and just doing the original live show, like maybe do it again once a quarter, once every other month, and just putting it under just putting it in my show. Mm-hmm. So it would still be Convince Me, because I still think I love the name, and ultimately as the host for the live show, you even if the audience, I said I reserve the right to tell the audience when they're wrong. So even if they are like, no, this guy won, I'll be like, did they? I don't think
overruled.
Yeah.
Like a judge, when a judge throws out a verdict or a settlement.
Exactly.
He comes back and says, we the jury find, the judge goes, oh, thanks. Disagree. Bam. Doesn't happen often, but it can happen.
This looks like a real Larry the Cable Guy kind of crowd, and obviously your opinion is wrong. So I'm going to award this person. We're definitely bringing the original concept back. It's just now it's refiguring the logistics of that, but it's coming, and I can't wait to do it. In fact, one of the things I wanted to do is do it like on a Sunday. So like if comics are traveling on their, we're right here off the interstate, right here in the state capital. So if they're traveling one way or the other, just have them, come by and record an episode. And so, yeah, it was big concept, had to get whittled down, but now we're going back to the original.
Well, now, other than Nathan, obviously, who's the most fun person you've had on? Or not even most fun, the one that you enjoyed the most, or unless you can't really say without offending people.
I don't think anyone's going to be listening to this show, so it's fine. I can say whatever I want. No, I'll tell you, Jesse David.
I'll post it on Facebook and be like, why does Larry keep untagging himself? He doesn't want to know his profile.
Son of a!
Don't listen to this. Don't listen. I said, okay, sorry. Who were you gonna?
No, Jesse David Fox of Vulture. He was a lot of fun to talk to. And Lana Love, who is a singer-songwriter.
I was gonna say, sounds like a porn star, but
that's why I always have to follow it up with Lana Love, singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
She was a lot of fun. It was one where the representation came to the network and said, hey, we'd love if you would interview this person, have them on a show. And everyone that does a show is like, I don't know if that really fits me. And I was like, I'm the island of misfit toys. That's people like that. When the network's like, I don't know where they go, and I'm like, they go here. I love talking to people. She was a great interview. Rena Kalm, she and I had a blast.
I know the name. Why do I know her name?
Yeah, she's a comic. Okay. Let's see who else. Just talked to Ben Sheehan who was a producer for Funny or Die and has written a couple books now. He was a good conversation. It was fun, but he was a real good conversation because he had written a book about geared towards adults called OMG, what the fuck does the Constitution even say anyway? And then he wrote one geared towards kids that just is, what does the Constitution actually say? And so we were discussing that with him, and very smart guy. Had some really insightful opinions. It was a lot of,
What did you learn?
I was just gonna say, what does the Constitution say?
Yes.
I learned that I don't know jack or shit about the Constitution. I thought that I knew stuff. I thought that I had an informed opinion, and then getting done talking to him, I was like, I know nothing. I know nothing, and I need to finish reading his book.
America in a nutshell, uninformed opinions.
Yes.
You know, that should be the name of our podcast right there. God damn
Uninformed opinions.
I might write that down, because we've already changed our name once, and
we could change it again. We're not so far along that the branding is gonna hurt us.
But what am I gonna do with all these visors?
the t-shirts. No, the Artificially Intelligent podcast, this is a very true story. Buddy Mike came up with it and said, hey, because we were searching for a name, and I said, ooh, I like that. And Barrett said, ooh, I like that. And then I did this thing. Maybe you've heard of it. I went on Google. I Googled it, and nothing came up. And Mike Googled it and said, yeah, nothing came up. So we went with it. And I went to put it on Spotify, and like 10 versions came up. I'm like, what the fuck, Google? How did you fail me so hard? I'm not a moron. I didn't just throw this out there. I searched to see if it existed, and it didn't until we existed, and then it was everywhere. So
same with Convince Me. Convince Me, we looked and we're like, because I had thrown like several names out. Convince Me was not out there. And then we went to post, and all of a sudden there were like 3 different shows called Convince Me, which is why my show is officially Convince Me with Larry Smith.
Yep. God damn it. I don't know how that happens, but it happened.
Because technology is a cruel mistress that loves to look at my freaking screen. Like I said, this had happened before. And actually, this popped up the day that I was interviewing Ben Sheehan. And I was like, hey, sorry. And he was like, no, that's hilarious. I'm good with it.
I enjoy it. Yeah. It, like I said, it makes you pop. Everyone's going to be watching you. They're not going to be watching Barrett or I. Like, they want to see the green guy.
Yeah. Why does the hobo look so sick?
Is he auditioning for Green Lantern 2? They really went in a different direction after Ryan Reynolds. They said, Ryan, they just put he wore a bodysuit, and they added the suit in CGI. With Larry, they'll have to do like a green screen, and then get rid of the body in CGI.
Yeah.
Good Lord. All right. So what did you learn about the Constitution? Like, if you weren't drinking on your show, do you drink on your show? Or do you only drink on other people's shows?
No, I drank on his when I was on it. He's being nice for us. Remember, it's just water right now.
I'm having water.
So depending on how much you can remember due to alcohol poisoning,
I don't drink that. I mean, I do.
Yeah, okay. But like, depending on like, what would you say the misconceptions of what people believe the Constitution say versus what it actually says?
Well, I'm going to say that I didn't write the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I retain very little information.
Unless that's a great answer, because when Barrett was asking, I'm sitting here, I was in my head thinking like, so this is sort of like, hey, a friend of a friend said. It's like literally that's what I was thinking. Is like, well, Larry did. I had the active thought. Larry didn't write the book, but
well, I mean, those are the questions I would have asked, I guess.
Well, I'm sure he did. And then, like, I mean, I read something and go, wow, that's really insightful. And the next day, someone might ask me, and I'll go,
but you don't drink or smoke weed. How is that possible?
I'm dumb as fuck. That's how.
Yeah, but you're so pretty. It's like Daddy always said, I didn't have to be good at math as long as I stayed pretty.
It is funny. Like, I read so many books, and if someone asks me what it's about, I'll go, but if they give me like a sentence or like the cover, I'll go, oh, yeah. And then I can just give them everything. But off the top of my head, nothing. Yeah. All I need is like a little nudge with everything. I just need a nudge, and it's all up there somewhere. I just can't get out.
Just wasn't expecting a quiz tonight.
That's the other name we were searching for
Yeah.
a quiz tonight. That would be
Yes.
the second podcast name is we bring on a guest and then we ask them shit they don't know.
Yes, that's the
Well,
point.
I admit that I don't know shit. So
That's funny. Well, I mean, I'm just curious because, like, I don't know a lot about the Constitution. I don't know a lot of that stuff. I've read most of it, like in grammar school or whatever, and I've pretended to revisit it as an adult. Right, like I'll look at it for a day and be like, "Oh yeah, I'll read it." Well, yeah, this I should really get into this, and life takes over, and I don't. Right, but I am curious because, like, I have the distinct feeling that people use the Constitution and laws and things like that in ways that, if they actually knew what they were doing, they wouldn't do these things. That's my general understanding. That's so.
Well, I think that, like, oh fuck, I can't remember it. Some asshole like Ted Cruz or who's that cunt from Kentucky?
Mitch McConnell.
No, the one with the shit hair whose neighbor kicks his ass with the Rand Paul. Rand Paul, yeah.
Rand Paul, yeah.
One of those fuckheads carries like a pocket constitution with them at all times, and they like to whip it out and go see it. But I get the sense when anybody does that they really don't know what it says, that they just, it reminds me of, and I'm going off track here kind of, but it reminds me of the famous Stephen Colbert interview where he sat down with it was a Better Know District, and he sat down with a congressional representative, and the guy was fighting to have the 10 commandments put outside a court building or a state building. And he said, "Oh, the 10 commandments are perfect. Everybody should know them." And Steve went, "All right, what are the 10 commandments?" And the guy's like, "Thou shalt not kill." And so Colbert just sat there with like three fingers, just waiting. And the guy did not know the answer. And it's just a beautiful, anybody listening should look it up right now. I just searched Colbert 10 commandments congressional something. Just throw a couple of words in there, but it's and I get the same sense with people that always talk about their constitutional rights. It reminds me of a Greg Warren joke. Greg Warren has a joke where and I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "You ever notice that anybody that really talks about it, like, well, I pay my taxes," yeah, they usually mean sales tax. Like they are under the threshold for paying taxes. So that that's the sense I get from constitutional. I'm trying to think of a porn reference. People that get erections over the Constitution, I don't think they really know what's in it.
It's the same. I'm guessing the Venn diagram of people who quote the Constitution or think they're quoting the Constitution and people who think they're quoting the Bible overlaps quite. It might actually just be a perfect circle.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, we did get into some discussions of things where I was like, "Oh wow, I didn't understand that, or I didn't know that." But I'll be honest, if you want to hear those, tune into Convince Me with Larry Smith on NPR Illinois.
But I think that's a lot of life is
yes,
absorbing information. It's the retention of it that's really difficult, retaining information.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in high school, I memorized Planck's quantum theory because I thought that if I memorized it, I would understand it. Guess fucking what?
Nope.
I didn't understand Planck's quantum theory, but I could quote it and make myself sound smart. I'm guessing that a lot of these guys with their pocket constitutions or can say, well, it technically says this in the Second Amendment in blah, blah, blah. Well, you don't really know. You don't really know what it's saying. You don't know how to apply it.
Yeah.
There's a difference between rote memorization and ability to apply that information. And admittedly, whether it be the Constitution or Planck's quantum theory, I got nothing. So,
well, it's funny you made me when you said that about high school. You reminded me of college, which I don't think I've ever. But I remember when I got into higher level courses, like the 100 level courses, you're like, holy fuck, really? I'm paying for this? but I took 500, 600, or 700 level, like right before you're about to graduate, level course of Buddhism, and I wrote a huge paper on it. And I just remember going, wow, Buddhism's fucking insane. I read all these books, and I was filled with Buddhism. I didn't convert or anything, but I was very, very knowledgeable. I actually understood it. I couldn't just regurgitate. And then I would say 5 years later, I was like, remember when I went through that Buddhism phase? Weird. And I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing now. Not a fucking thing. But it's funny. If you immerse yourself in any world, you can pick shit up. It's just,
yeah,
you have to stay in that world, otherwise it just fades.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder. No, you first.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to go back to something you said, because I Nathan and I talk about this a lot. We're like, we're all artists, right? So we're all, and you guys are comedians. Do you guys prefer comedian or comic? Do you care?
I've never been asked that. I've never even thought it.
All right. Well, because like
there are some assholes out there that want to make that distinction between comedian and comic.
Really? I've never thankfully never run into him. Knock on wood.
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
There's apparently some.
My wife was on an airplane, and they bumped her up to first class, and she sat next to Wayne Brady, and she said, "Oh, my husband's a comedian too," and he did not talk to her the rest of the flight. He just went, "I am an entertainer." And that was it. And their conversation was done. Like he was so offended by being called a comedian. He's like, "I'm an entertainer." Like, well, you're a dick, but
Well, Wayne Brady almost choked a bitch. I guess that's. Thank you. I quote Chappelle's show from.
And you gotta call Nathan's wife a bitch. Jesus.
I didn't take it that way. I took it as a quote. I took it as a direct quote. I don't take quotes personally. I take them as moments of opportunity.
I'm kidding, but that's funny. Well, I realize that you guys being in the profession that you're in, there's a lot of this for you guys too, I would imagine. But like, I feel like for me, I'm not a comic, but my humor tends to be self-depreciating, right? And I feel like many of the things that I've done in my life have been to counteract that, right? So like Nathan and I'll joke, like I'll say things like I dined out on my diagnosis for a decade because like I dined out on knowing what was wrong with me, but not fixing it per se, if that makes any sense, And I feel like when I took that and I was like, what, I'm going to go through, I decided to become a minimalist, which when you look at my guitar rack, you can see I obviously have succeeded. But what I realized when I was going through my bookshelf is that half the books I had were really there just so that if people saw them, they made me look smart. Not because I was ever going to read them. They're like those books, there's like a list of 100 books that, I'm going to read that one day. Or I've read the back cover or done what Nathan calls when he talks about people who just read the headlines of articles. Like I read the back cover. So it's better than a headline, but not much more. Maybe the inside flap also, but not much more than that. But like once I started getting rid of all those books that I was never going to read, that was just designed to make me look smart, I stopped owning records or albums. I mean, obviously Spotify and shit.
I was gonna say MP3s took care of that shit.
Right, but like you stop owning shit that like one day you're going to listen to, and stop collecting information that is really just designed to make me feel smarter than other people.
Ooh, I like where you took that. I was wondering where you were going. I like where that was a neat.
Well, but it's all connected. So like I wonder, like I know when you're in college, you're doing this. And we're talking about all these things, like you're memorizing these theories and stuff. And yeah, it makes you sound smart when you're talking to other people, but it's kind of like, other than that, what's the point of it, right? And I wonder how, when I start to look around in my room, in my life, when you say things like that, I'm like, God damn it. I still do have a lot of, what is it, Planck's theory?
Yeah, Planck's quantum theory.
But I have a lot of Planck's quantum theory around here. Like, like shit that like, if you ask me about it, I can tell you about it. as long as you know less than I do. Like, as
Right.
long as you know less than this much, I'm going to see like a fucking you. Right? But and since most people know, I don't even know who Planck is. See, so when you say Planck's
Same.
quantum theory, I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. So you could literally be like, oh, well, Planck's quantum theory, and you could explain it, and I still wouldn't understand. But
Yeah.
I would go, oh, I get it. Just so I wouldn't feel stupid, I wouldn't tell you that I don't understand, and you could leave the conversation knowing full well that you know things I don't know. And I have a lot of information like that in my head that is, I don't think it's specifically designed for that, but I think that's what I use it for. You
That's
know?
goddamn interesting. Yeah, I actually, I was going to say that if you want to become a minimalist, just move more, because I gave up a ton of, like, if it did fit in my car when I moved to Los Angeles, it didn't come with me. And if it did fit in my car when I left, it didn't come with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still, like, especially with books. With books, I do a purge every year, and I look at it and I go, fuck, I remember reading that in college, because I had full bookshelves because I was an English major. So
Right.
I read all my books, but
Yeah.
why I held on to them, because I would look at it and go, I'm not going to read this again. I really like it. Why is it on my shelf? Because of what Barrett said. Oh, because there's that sort of snooty, snotty, I read this important book once feeling, that haughtiness. And once I wanted to step down off that pedestal, I'm like, and now I own a home. I'll never move again, knock on wood. And I could start hoarding, but I choose not to. I choose to purge more than ever.
Yeah.
We've done a couple purges. And because we, again, the same thing with the, my wife and I both love to read. We both had, when we moved in together, we both had piles of books, crates of books, because we were, both of us had this weird, well, I liked this book, I may want to reread it, so we'll keep this. We ended up with, like, at one point we had 3 copies of Brave New World. We ended up like doubling and tripling up on books because we had the same book, and then we went through a purge where we just are looking at these books going, we just have this, we'll never read it again, but it's up there because it's a classic.
Yeah.
And now there's books that we keep around just because now we have the full set. It's like, this is a fun fiction series, and we have all of them. And I might, because they're a quick read, I may one day go back through them and read them again. Now we keep stuff around for the pleasure of it, or for me, if it's got really cool cover art, I like to keep that stuff around. I just because I can look at it and be like, that's rad, or I get excited and show other art geeks and be like, see this, look, it's very rare. So
that's funny, because I talk about doing book purchases, do the same goddamn thing. Like, I have kept the books that either I really think I'll read again, or I have read multiple times, and that does not mean they're classics. Like,
yeah,
Stephen King's It is the only Stephen King book I kept, and for a while I was reading it once every couple of years. I haven't, because every time I would read it, I would get to the end and I would either be okay with the stupid turtle spider ending, or I would just be like, Jesus fuck, dude, could you have laid off the coke for at least a week and written a decent ending? Because it's such a good book up until the fucking end, where either, depending on the mood you're in, it's like acceptable or just garbage. But yeah, now that's what's on my shelves, are books I've read a couple times, or just sort of like comfort books. No longer do I have the important books.
Well, you say comfort book. Yeah. Sometimes I'll pick up a book and read it for a few chapters, a book that I've read multiple times. And I might just thumb through and hit it like the middle of it, read a few chapters. It's like comfort food. It's like getting a little taste of ice cream at the end of a day and being like, all right, well, that was good enough. And that took me back to a spot in my life where I was, I was happy.
In the closet with my uncle, and he said, here's the ice cream, don't tell anyone.
There was good ice cream.
Yeah. Oh, wait, was that a repressed memory? Sorry.
Good Lord.
It wasn't repressed.
It took Barrett a second to realize what I was doing.
I knew what you were doing, because
and I didn't approve.
He went to the summer camp for boys who are about to be molested. Right?
Yeah.
Do you know the joke? Do you know that guy? See, these
Mm-mm.
are
Is that the other Larry Smith?
no. Although he had a funny joke. He did have his joke. The one
What's
joke
that
that I
like?
found, there was one that I found that was like amusing, where he's talking about weed versus alcohol, and he walked into a bar and he smelled like weed, and one of his friends who was drinking a bunch gave him shit about it, and he said, you wear the cologne to attract the women you want. I'll wear the cologne to attract the kind of women I want."
Yeah, it's
And I was like, "That's pretty fucking
it's a
funny."
goddamn good line.
I
Yeah,
was
it
like,
Damn.
is.
"That."
I
I was like,
like that.
"That's some funny shit right there." I was like, "That's pretty fucking accurate," you know. But it's funny because it ties back into the books, because half the books that I would say that were on my shelf were not designed. They were designed to stimulate a woman's curiosity about
A
me,
certain kind of woman, yes.
right? And so, like, the books that I would have would be books that were cool and interesting, but arguably books I thought the women I would like would be impressed by, more so than anything else. And I can't tell you how many Sidney Sheldon books I've had to read because of this. I'm kidding. I've only read 4.
I don't know who Sidney Sheldon is.
And you're better man because of it.
I'll tell you this story really quick. You just made me think of this, and I got to caught quietly because my wife is on the other side of the door. I've told this story before, so she
So
doesn't care.
she doesn't watch this.
No, good God,
Okay.
no. It's something involving me. Why would she take an interest in it?
She gets enough of that.
Yeah. She's the only one in the house right now that doesn't have COVID, so she's quarantining in the basement. But then I had to come down here to do this. But it started like very quickly. My daughter caught COVID somewhere, and then I got it, and then my son tested positive. But before my son tested positive, it was like, okay, my daughter lives in a room. I go in the basement, and then my son and wife get the. But then once it was like, up 3 against 1, you're in the basement, sweetie. So now we rule the house because she hasn't tested positive yet. So the whole point is she's on the other side of the door. When I went to her place for the first time, it's funny. She was definitely not trying to attract anyone, because her bookshelf, and I don't remember any of the books, but as I put it when I wrote about it, the titles were like, "So you just got dumped. You're gonna die alone. Cats, how many do you need?" And I'm just looking at her bookshelf going, "Oh shit," like she there's like just a bookshelf of relationship troubles, and I'm like, well, maybe she's learned something from these books and will be a good catch, and that's how it turned out, is the books did something, I guess, because I fell for her. I fell for her hard. I love you, sweetie, if she is watching. Or,
And see,
sweetie, if she's hearing.
I had I get it. I had books that I thought, well, this will make me look interesting when I bring a woman over. But what I had them on was a plastic shelf that I got from Walmart underneath a stolen dip sign from the and it near my Blues Brothers poster, because
that's cool. Blues Brothers poster is cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's, I was like, yeah, this will make me look cool. Chicks will dig this. It's like, you're barely a grown up. You might as well just be using milk crates, which I still have.
Oh, I love milk crates. I got shit on the back of my corner. See, I had I had all my English literature books, so I think they would just come over and like it just. I think they're be blunt. I think their pussies would dry up because just boring. Like
you can like feel it. It's like you like hear the suction noise when they walk and look at it. It's like,
come on, daddy, conjugate this verb.
Yeah, no, not that kind of like old dead English poets and stuff like that. Like just dry literature, or Shakespeare. He's that dead guy. Like, yeah,
that's
awesome.
That's Shakespeare is how my wife and I met, actually.
Really?
I think I told you I did a lot of theater.
Yeah.
And I was, and this was not a pretentious thing or a poser thing. I fell in love with Shakespeare when I was like 10, and would check out the annotated Shakespeares from my local library, and to the point where if I needed to, I could just call them and say, hey, can you renew these books? Because they're like, no one else is checking these out. um and so I loved Shakespeare. And I loved the playing of language, and I loved just the different genres of writing that they delved into. I know there's theories about
who actually wrote them.
So we were actually in As You Like It together, and I played, as you do in Shakespeare, unless you're one of the main characters, I played a couple different roles. I was kind of a last minute addition. The directors had grabbed me and said, hey, because I had just come off a run of Camelot, and they said, hey, we need a Charles the Wrestler, and we need a William, who is William's the simple country lad. So, typecasting. And being the stout gentleman that I am, they could not, because in the original writing, oh God, I'm dorking it up. But in the original concept, William was supposed to be afraid of Touchstone the clown. Touchstone was supposed to be intimidating. Well, the directors were like, how do we make that work? And they decided that instead, Touchstone, who ultimately is just in love with himself, even though he's trying to steal Audrey, the country girl, who William is in love with, Touchstone goes up stage to essentially deliver all of these insults to William. And I had the brilliant idea of, because they were like, we need Audrey to try to hold you back. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. So they were like, well,
it can, but it's called acting. I can't break free of your grip.
Yeah. So they're like, you guys figure it out. And so we started with me just picking her up and moving her to the side. And then I was like, so she was like, what do I do from there? I was like, I don't know. Probably ought to jump on my back.
Oh, no, I just had a flash. Do that kid thing your kids do. Just sit down on your foot and grab so that you can't.
Well, if she had actually said that with the dress that she was wearing, she was like, I would totally do that, but I would totally flash my beef to the audience. So no, we're not going to do that. I was like, good call. So yeah,
she said flash my beef, that's when you fell in love.
It was. like I already
have one of those. I like those.
I've never seen one. Can you show it to me? I'll stay over across the room.
Instead of flashing the audience, could you flash me? No, sorry, it was Shakespeare. Perchance might a fellow see thy beeve?
Oh, soft and fluffy beeve, please doth flash it towards my face. I shall give it a saucy glance, and then forevermore no longer speak of it. But in my dreams,
please doth rest it upon my face. Sit on my face and tell me that you love me. I'll sit on your face and tell you I love you too. Black people don't know Monty Python.
You moralize when I'm between
your thighs. You blow me away. Yep.
Okay. Are we gonna get pulled for copyright on that?
No, not if we sing it. If we play it, then we get pulled.
Gotcha.
If we perform it, then it's just maybe we have to pay a fraction of a penny in royalties. But no,
okay. Excellent.
Especially not as off key as I was.
I thought we did great.
I thought it was really nice.
Thank you. See what I did there?
Yeah.
I took the anyway. So she's on your back, flashing the audience. That's what I heard anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. That was it. And then we just kind of, from that point, we were just like, dang it. We didn't want to like each other. We really did. We did not want to like each other. But then we wound up. Now it's over a decade later, and here we are. She's still putting up with me.
She's still like you.
And occasionally like you. She jumps on my back and flashes her beef. So
to various passersby.
You know what? We got to keep it fresh somehow.
If you're in the Target or the Walmart, yay.
That'll do it.
The Target or the Walmart. Sometimes at Aldi's, but
So-
only in the miscellaneous items aisle, because that's where it's acceptable. You can do anything there.
Yeah. Let's go sideways with the conversation, because you made me think of something with regarding Shakespeare. When your show got canceled and March 14th hit in 2020 and everything shut down, I decided to do something I hadn't done before. I had read a lot of Shakespeare, but I've had the complete works of Shakespeare forever since college. That's one of the books that I did not get rid of, because occasionally I would go back and revisit my favorite plays. When COVID started, I said, and I think Barrett and I talked about this, maybe, I said, I'm going to read the complete works of Shakespeare. That's what I'm going to do with my time in quarantine and as everything shut down. And spoiler alert, I didn't do it, because what I discovered was, holy shit, Shakespeare wrote some shit, just some stinkers. And what people remember or talk about are Macbeth, Hamlet, for some reason, Romeo and Juliet, which I never liked even as a kid. But
No.
I just thought it was funny, like with distance and time, it creates legends. Warrant is still remembered for Cherry Pie. It's a one-hit wonder, but not the breadth of their work. Shakespeare has a handful of fucking greats, but I guess I never realized how boring some of his crap is. And I found that fascinating. It was like this revelation to me, because Shakespeare is so lionized that when I actually said, I'm like, this is why I didn't read this in college. This is why the professor chose that play instead of this play. It's why Richard III is still known, whereas Richard, not so much. Or like there some of them jump out, and I just found that fascinating. And it seems like it would be obvious, but yeah.
I mean, I think when you look at all most of the art forms, particularly like writing, though, I feel like they talk about it in classical music all the time, where a very small percentage of classical composers' works get performed every year. And out of those ones they get performed, a very small percentage of that person's work, like we think of Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, but you can probably really only think of, I'll give you 3 titles per one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you could actually hum in your head, that you can be like, oh, right, I know this one. You probably know more John Williams than you know, like probably by a huge factor.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
More
And
John Williams,
lay
Beethoven.
people like me, you get them confused. You like, wait, which one is that? Like you hear something that you recognize, but you doesn't mean you automatically go, that's, unless you're, it goes back to where we started with the theorem, the quantum theorem, or the Buddhism, where unless you are immersed in that.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to where Barrett, you and I were. Barrett and I met at Berklee College of Music, and because I was seeped in rock and roll, I took history of jazz. And one thing they did is, for the final exam, they would play a snippet of a song, and you had to say, oh, that's Coltrane, Giant Steps. Oh, that's Bitches Brew. And to me, that was fucking difficult because I didn't listen to it. But in retrospect, now that I do listen to those songs, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, that'd be like playing, Back in Black for a rock, and just like, oh, that's AC/DC. I mean, it was just like, I paid fucking money for that, and that's an education. Like, it's just that goddamn tune. It's a goddamn game show that you get a diploma for, which is why I left before getting my diploma.
This is also the math class where they said, you have a gig that pays $100. You owe your agent 10%. What is that? That was math class also. You know what I mean? You're
Except musicians need that. I mean, how many successful musicians do you know that never graduated high school, and they always get in trouble? They fucking, like athletes, they blow their money because they can't do basic math like that.
Right, exactly. But
or they have somebody telling them, oh, you've got plenty of money.
Right. Yes. I just don't think that class really helped anybody who got into, like, if I really needed math, the math that I would have used wouldn't have come from that class. That's what I can say. The math I would have used would have come from the high school class where I was actually learning math. Not, you know what I mean? At least for me. But I kind of half lost my thought. Shit, I'm not even high or drinking. My God, what is going on?
I've infected you with the timmel stupid.
Yeah, man. Shit. Maybe I need to start drinking or get high, and then it'll come back to me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you make me think of Towley. Wait, here it is. Oh man, I'm so
it's
high.
funky town.
Yeah.
I remember what it is.
Yep. Oh, so good.
Tally, you're the worst character ever. That's my
Really is.
favorite line from that episode.
Yes, yes. Well, I think we're getting sort of close to an hour.
That's funny.
How do we want to wrap this up before it becomes inorganic? Because we just had that awkward burp moment where it's like,
Well-
ooh, somebody say something so it's not lost. But
I just didn't want to interrupt anymore.
Well, I would be very curious to know when your show is, and is your show available on the interweb? Like, can us non-Illinoisans?
Oh, absolutely.
find-
So it's on all podcast platforms. So just Convince Me with Larry Smith, or you can go to NPR.org. I think it's nprillinois.org and look it up there. But yeah, you can just go to any podcast platform, Spotify or what have you. I do have another show. I have another podcast that I do with a buddy of mine, called Zig and Larry Ignore a Topic. And Zig and I we've been friends for over 20 years, and we started this. We just like, let's just do something. And again, during COVID, everything was shut down, and I was like, I don't know. He goes, you just want to do a stupid podcast? I said, sure. He goes, it's just a chance for us to hang out every week and have a drink together and chat and catch up, and then we'll have a topic that we don't talk about. And so we end up like, we'll find something ridiculous to fall back on if the conversation lulls. But yeah, you just can Google Convince Me with Larry Smith or Zig and Larry Ignore a Topic. And also, if you want to see me, my website is larrysmithcomedy.com.
there you go. And to my side, antargoodwin.com is where you can find all things bass and guitar related. I would say bass, but then I stumbled because it was bass guitar for so long. But how many instruments do you play now?
I mean, really, 2, but I could say 3. I could say drums, bass, and guitar, but I wouldn't really play drums.
Not
I play in
for
the
a while,
studio, but I wouldn't actually play them on stage. I don't think I have it in
Also,
me.
Katie,
No.
KatieHenryMusic.com, because Barrett is the musical director for the Katie Henry Band. New album is coming out January 21st. Got bumped back due to art issues, but cover's been settled.
It is, and it's coming out in vinyl. I saw the mock-up of the vinyl today.
Well, that's cool.
That's exciting. Not that
And
I have
then-
a record player, but
This goes to what we talked about, me being stupid. Barrett has said the name of the album every week for over a month, and yet I can't remember it right now off the top of my head.
no, On My Way.
On My Way, and the instant he
title
says it,
track.
it's up here going, yeah, you know that. You hear it every week, shitface. So the album will be On My Way. If you can't wait, High Road is still available on Spotify, Apple Music, all that. That was Katie's her debut album. And that was, I had not seen Barrett in 10 years.
It's been a good minute.
It was your wedding was the last time I physically saw you. And her High Road was nominated for, I don't remember what, outstanding new artist for a blues record. And the ceremony took place in Rockford, Illinois. So I drove there to hang out with him. So if you want to hear an album that was nominated for an award, I don't remember what the award was, but it was an award nominated album, High Road. And I can be found at nathantimmel.com. Book is still getting good reviews. I had a couple more book bloggers sign off, and one said, I wish I had written the quote down. I'll put it up on the graphic for people watching. They can see it, but it's something like, holy shit, what a way to end a chapter, or something like that. Or holy shit, like actually put the swear word in it. And I'm liking when they put that, but they said They said that they finished chapter 1. Actually, it's the prologue, but they said chapter 1. They finished the first chapter, put the book down, and just sat there sort of for a moment, like trying to process it, and then picked it up and reread the first chapter. Holy shit! What a way, you know. And so yeah, I had them hooked from the get go. So that's We Are 100, available on Amazon. And if you want to see Larry and I in person, we're going to be doing a comedy show together next month in Decatur, Illinois.
Do you guys ever come out this way?
No, but I'm going to Anchorage, Alaska in March. Just got that today. So Anchorage listeners,
nice.
Hi.
Alaska in the winter. That's nice.
March is spring.
I think I have some friends up in Anchorage. So I'll get you what the kids
call the deets.
Yeah, do so, because I'll send Pat and Molly.
There
Pat is he's a what is he, a commander in the Air Force? So
That's
maybe
a good thing
he can drag some of those fellows along with him.
Well, there you go. And this is where people are actually really tuning out. They when they hear the promo start, they know they've heard everything. They're like, I don't need to hear it. But then we're just talking like, oh yeah, let's go Son of Fred. Like they're like, they can't hit that stop button hard.
Well,
enough. So
what they gotta tune in, because we're gonna be talking about sexy stuff. Is what we're gonna be. This is the sexy sex.
Now
see
if you sex.
Yeah,
three guys talking sexy stuff.
Oh, yeah. Get down in that deep voice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some sexy stuff.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Larry, thanks for hanging out with us.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we will. We'd love to have you back.
Anytime.
The other week we had a transgender guest on who was born male and is transitioning to female, and we told her that we'd love to have her on every few months to discuss the changes and what she's developing and how she's doing. We'd love to have you on every couple of months just to watch you stay the same.
The various stages of beard is what you'll see.
That's what we'll do. The various stages of beard. All right. Everyone's tuned out by now. Thanks. Bye, all.